Great Tim McManus. Tim!
Mike, another day in the life on the Eagles team.
Oh, it's fantastic. A winning team, too. And this is, I see what I love about the Eagles, because little topics can really generate great conversation. So take me through this. You hear what Brandon Graham says, and what's your response, and where do you go from there as a reporter?
My first response was to text Graham and basically said, let's talk if you want to talk. So he ended up giving me a call to kind of give his context about his original comments and trying to put it in proper perspective, and basically saying that he went too far with his comments, and basically like he was he didn't have the full story, but based off of the video that he saw of A.J. Brown's comments post-game, he was making some assumptions that he probably shouldn't have made. But obviously, Mike, by that point, there was a whole lot of speculation / fireworks that were going off.
Yeah, people got to him. But, he's an honest guy. So basically he says the person that's complaining needs to be accountable. And I'm just being honest. And he knows this, meaning A.J. Brown. So he put the spotlight on A.J. Brown. And this is not the first time A.J. Brown did this. So was Brandon Graham accurate here, or did he go overboard?
Well, so I think he's accurate in the fact of, like, the main thesis of his argument is that this stuff should be handled more in-house, I think, is the correct one. I mean, just consider everything. It's a 9-game winning streak, Mike. They improved to 11-2. They still have a chance for the number 1 seed. I would say that the vibes around this team have been pretty good overall, that they had sort of moved past the collapse, and now they're celebrating with one another after touchdowns and interceptions, and everything feels pretty good. And then they have a clunker of a passing game against Carolina, and next thing you know, Brown's throwing his helmet down on the sideline, and he's terse in his explanations post-game, and that led to something else, which was Brandon Graham having his own comments. So obviously a mistake for Graham to go all the way down the road that he went down. I think that he was accurate in the fact of, listen, Brown can't be handling his business this way. You have to avoid some of the turmoil that engulfed this team last year. And so, yes, I think that part of his comments were correct.
All right, so here's what we have here. So first of all, it is impossible for a diva-like player to shut up. It's just impossible. We've never seen that happen in the NFL, except for maybe a couple of guys who are stars that decide not to react when they don't get the ball. They want the ball. It's how they show off. So let's get to him not getting the ball. Whose fault is that? And we talked about it today that maybe it's a Jalen problem, or maybe they need to make more of a priority, which Kellen Moore just admitted, priority of getting him the ball early. Where do you stand on that?
So just real quick on the diva thing, I don't view him as a diva. Like, I know, like, because of all the connotations that come with that, I know that there have been instances where he's spoken out or shown frustration, but the place that it comes from, I don't think is diva-ish. I think it is rooted in team. Him getting the ball equals team success kind of thing. But I think this is, like, you can't really point to anything but circumstances primarily as to, like, whose fault it is. I mean, it was always going to be a puzzle that they had to put together when they added Saquon Barkley, because you have 2 high-profile wide receivers, and there's not a high-profile wide receiver in existence that isn't going to want to be featured. And now you have a premier running back, and in the beginning of the season, they were trying to find that balance, and what they came to realize was that the best way to go about their business offensively was to lean on a guy that has like an MVP-type caliber year in him, and the offensive line went to Sirianni's office, like knocked on the door, was like, dude, we gotta feature this guy, feature us, let's run the ball. They have, and they rattled off 9 straight wins as a result of it. So there's always going to be like a degree of pride swallowing, whether that's from Barkley 1 week or if it's from A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith for a few weeks. But it is tilted in a bit of an extreme here to where they've had to be patient and have fewer opportunities for almost the entire duration of a season. So it's kind of just a setup, Mike. Like, I don't know how you can't have some guys getting a little bit frustrated. It's just a matter of can they sort of put that to the side for the betterment of the group while they're on this, what they're hoping is a Super Bowl charge.
Yeah, I don't mean diva in a derogatory way. I mean it like diva-like. When star players don't get the ball, they're disappointed, and they show disappointment. That's the context I meant it in. So, so do we have a quarterback problem here? Because going over the tape, it looked like he was afraid to actually get the ball to him when he was open and not processing it the right way. Has this quarterback regressed in that way?
So I wonder if he isn't taking things a little bit too far. In other words, he had 7 turnovers over the first 4 games, and that was second in the NFL behind only Will Levis. And then they had the bye week, and they make some adjustments, and Sirianni is hammering the fact of, one of the big things that we look at is turnovers. It's the ones that we create and the ones that we're giving up. It's going to be the key to our success, a major one anyway. And Hurts hasn't really turned the ball over. He's got 2 since that bye week. And so maybe, especially in this game, it felt like, he just wasn't sort of acting when, like A.J. Brown flashed wide open on that second play of the game or some other ones deeper down the field. And so maybe he's just gone a little bit more to one extreme than he needs to, and that has the potential to kind of sort itself out. They have just a handful of regular season games left in which to work with.
All right, Tim, you're talking about stuff that's going on the field. I want to ask you some things about off the field because I'm getting a little bit of heat because I started the show saying that I think that Jalen Hurts may be the bigger problem here because he's been the common denominator now over the last 6 months, even longer, of the guy that there's been issues with. We can go back to reports from last season that the organization wanted Jalen to be a better leader. There are reports that he changed since he got the contract. You and Jeremy Fowler wrote a great article in August about how he has a habit of shutting people out when he's frustrated. Now we hear Brandon Graham saying that there's a personal problem between Jalen and AJ. And I asked the question, when you look at the common denominator, it's Jalen Hurts. So you're in that locker room. You follow this team. Is there a problem with Jalen Hurts off the field?
So I think those, obviously the reports have substance, and there's things that Hurts has needed to work on, but he's also, 25. So I think that there's some natural development that comes from, I think because he comports himself typically, with such maturity, you sometimes forget that he's not that old of a guy and that there's, a big spotlight on him, and there are things that he absolutely had to address. But I'm not really viewing this one like there's this huge beef between. We're going to do more reporting on it, but that there's a huge beef right now between A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. I think that there is going to be tension in a pressure-packed environment, especially coming off of a collapse. I think there was plenty of tension last year. Some of that can happen when things aren't going right offensively for you in this game. And he has had some missteps during his time here. But I also feel like most of the things that have been coming back this season have been positive in respect to Hurts, that he has, taken steps to sort of be more open and to be more available and to be a better leader. And so I feel like there is progress there, Bill. But I think that the biggest issue right now is what's happening on the field. The question is, for me, when it comes down to it, and they get into it. Maybe it doesn't happen to the divisional round of the playoffs. Maybe it's not the NFC Championship. Maybe it could be this Sunday in Pittsburgh, but maybe it's not to the Super Bowl or against Pittsburgh. Will they be able to put the game on their back as a passing unit? And can Hurts do that? That's an outstanding question that I think has the chance to potentially end this season prematurely. They got to figure that stuff out. I'm a little bit less concerned about the behind-the-scenes stuff right now.
All right. When will A.J. Brown be questioned on this? Will he be available to talk about this?
So we'll be in the locker room tomorrow, and Thursday and Friday. He usually speaks Thursday-ish, but obviously there's going to be some urgency for him to talk in this one. And I'm curious to see how that goes too, Mike, because if you remember from last year, there was a couple times where he would come out and he would say something that would blow up, and then there would be a week or two which he didn't talk. basically with the mantra, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So we've kind of been down this road a little bit, and I'm not sure what his tact is going to be, but Hurts is scheduled to speak tomorrow. He takes the podium. We'll hear his side of it, and then I think everybody will be really interested to hear what Brown has to say if he does, in fact, go to his locker.
A couple more rungs on this ladder, which gives people a chance to blame the media for blowing it out of proportion, right?
It's all our fault, Mike.
Exactly.
Yeah, we get blamed. But Tim, one more thing, though, about the off-the-field stuff, because Brandon Graham's quote was, they used to be friends, but things have changed. Any idea what happened between AJ and Jalen?
Yeah, so I have reached out to some people sort of that would know, at least have a baseline understanding. And what came back to me is that they're still friends. So that's not like I'm done reporting. Obviously, we're just, we're going to dig into this. But that was like kind of the first things that came back. And then if you heard Sirianni's comments today, he basically said, like, you guys don't see everything that I see. You don't see them eating lunch together every day, going over the game plan together, praying with one another before the game. A couple people have referenced to me the fact 2 weeks ago, like they were doing the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air touchdown celebration. That was 2 weeks ago, so that didn't exactly speak of two people who can't stand each other. So,
well, but Brandon's the one that said it. So, in you talking to Brandon Graham, did he shed any light on that? Any further light?
Well, what he said to me was he made assumptions based off of like the video. So we can gauge how much of that is a walk back versus how much does he know. And of course, we're gonna report this through for sure, guys. But what I would say is I don't think it's like this, bubbling contentious thing based off the early intel that I've gotten. It doesn't mean that there's not strain. Like I think that even the strongest of friendships can be tested in this kind of environment. But we'll continue to monitor that.
All right, Timmy, good stuff. We appreciate you coming on today. Keep at it.
Of course. All right, we'll do it. We'll talk soon.
There he is. Tim McManus from the Comcast Business Hotline, ESPN.com.